Lyoko is my all-time favorite cartoon ever. The story originally began with one of the 5 characters as Jeremy. He was looking for some metal scraps for his science project in an abandoned factory, but he accidentally stumbled across a supercomputer with a virtual girl on the screen. Jeremy later on met Auric, who also came along with both Yumi and Odd, and they all made an agreement to be in a group that will stop the evil nature of Xana, who will come into their world from a virtual universe, the same place as this new virtual girl, to take over, possess, and destroy everything. The main plot of Lyoko are these 5 kids coming along and trying to save the world within the shadows, while trying to be a full-time student and be responsible for their schooling, while trying to be superheroes. And no, it doesn't sound like an easy life at all. A lot of them have to lie, make excuses just to go to the supercomputer so Jeremy can virtualize them into the virtual world. Jeremy is the mastermind when it comes to understanding all knowledge, history, and how the supercomputer works. And the 4 of them have to rely on Jeremy to make sure everything is going to go well on the outside of things on their mission. And Jeremy has to rely on the other warriors, the Lyoko warriors is what they call themselves, to go to the virtual world and deactivate the tower while defeating Xana's monsters, something he can't do. So all of them have to rely on each other for different abilities to offer, and they all work perfectly together as a team. The story originally started out as a group of 5 teenagers along with the virtual girl trying to stop the mad monster Xana from taking over the world. And yes, it does sound like a basic story to tell, but you have to remember this came out in 2003. Things weren't as complicated back then for stories. The deeper you go in Lyoko's lore and plot, this series actually gets really interesting and mind-blowing as the story progresses. Jeremy, who spends most of the time with the virtual girl, who eventually finds out that her real name is Aelita. Lyoko, I would not call it a very complex series, but it does have very challenging elements to it. And some of the stuff it was able to accomplish as the story moves forward was pretty mind-blowing and very settled. They really pull you in with the investigation and the history and the lore of this universe and story. Later on, we find out Aelita was actually forced to go to this virtual world by her father, and she was trapped in this universe for at least 20 years, I believe. Her body hasn't aged, but her mind mentally is still a child. Like her other friends, Jeremy tried so hard to find a way to transport her from the virtual world to their world, and eventually it worked out and she actually stays in their world. Aelita actually develops as a human being and she becomes more human-like as she's in their world and not some random person from a virtual world. She becomes a real human being, develops feelings, emotions, care, interests, everything. It's really there for her character. Her development is actually probably the best out of any other Lyoko warrior. As for the rest of the cast, Auric is a stubborn teenager who struggles with schooling and his father and his love interest with one of the main characters, Yumi. Odd is the one main character I've seen people say he's the most relatable because he's just being himself and he's having fun with himself and he's not afraid to be who he really is. Yes, Odd can be annoying, but half the time he's just living life the best way he can at his age. Now Yumi is this really relaxed girl that's pretty nice and she does her best to be there for her friends all the time. She's extremely laid back and very chilled, but her friendship is complicated with her love interest with Auric. It's been one of the things people look back 20 years later to the series, that their relationship never went anywhere. It's supposed to be this realistic 2 teenagers not trying to figure shit out of what they really want from each other, and at the end, it didn't work out. Both Yumi and Auric's friendship/relationship is an off and on thing. 1 second they're arguing, 1 second they're together, they work their feelings out, and then a moment later on, they're back arguing, they talk about how they feel each other, and then it retcons, and it's this multiple back and forth thing that a lot of fans are just really annoyed by looking back at the series 10 years or 20 years later at this point, and I can't really blame them, but Lyoko had a lot of realistic elements to this series which I believe holds up just fine, like actually arguing with your parents, having trust issues, betraying your best friend's trust, but you have to work your way up to get that trust back. Lyoko did a lot of things right in my personal opinion that aged fine, but if I'm being completely honest with my feelings, I would have to say the animation and the storyline may have not aged well 20 years later. Like, there's still elements to the show that you can get out of. I'm not taking that away from it. I'm just implying the budget for the series 20 years ago was not the best. It has multiple re-animation shots and art. Lyoko has a total of 97 episodes, and I promise you after rewatching the series many damn times, this series definitely does have filler. The Xana episodes where it's non-stop of him taking over something or someone over and over again Those episodes are complete filler and they have nothing to do with the original storyline. In order to watch the story in the correct order, you have to watch all the episodes that tie in with all of Xana, Alita, and the Lyoko universe, and Franz Hopper, Alita's father. Those are the elements that need to be focused on more than anything else, that moves the story forward in the correct order. If you have ever rewatched this series before and you were wondering why there were so many repeat episodes of Xana attacks that didn't go, well, fucking anywhere, yeah, that's why. Those are filler episodes. But overall, Lyoko to me was something of what could have been an even greater experience if both the creator and the other writers only knew how amazing this series could have been. Yes, Lyoko had realistic troubles like schooling and dealing with your parents, and the four main characters were able to bring Alita back into their world, and she lived her whole life well after this. There's a lot of things going right for Lyoko, but the problem is, this series had a lot of unanswered questions, like Alita's mother being taken away, and we absolutely know nothing of what happened to her. Franz Hopper sacrificed his life to save his daughter at the very last chapter of the series, but you never know really. The gang officially defeated Xana, shut down the supercomputer, and the episode mostly ends like any other normal episode, which for me is beyond disappointing. I would have respectfully loved to have seen them graduate from their academy and say their goodbyes, and they all move on to something different. Apparently there was supposed to be a season 5 animation version of the series, but it was canceled because Moonscoop, the company that previously owned the series, went bankrupt years ago. And I'm not a fan when a series ends like any other episode, to be honest. It's just not as memorable. I also have to mention the iconic Return to the Past. When something goes horribly wrong, they can go back in time with a supercomputer 24 hours in the past. Everyone who is not a Lyoko warrior, their memories will be completely wiped out, besides the main characters, of course, because they are tied into the Lyoko universe. Once something happens, they will remember everything. I also have to give credit, the show didn't give a flying fuck when it comes to putting these kids into life and death situations. Auric broke his arm once in an elevator while it was filling up with water, Yumi was crushed by a damn tree and almost died, Odd almost drowned as well, Jeremy was suffocating once, and Alita was realistically hospitalized, and it's just like, damn, they really went deep. The Return to the Past is a cool concept, but there was a lot of side characters that kept getting their character development taken away from them. Because obvious reasons, when you go in time, you're taking away future events. Everybody's memories are completely wiped out, and you're taken away that desperately needed that change of heart, and it just retconned everything. Now, after finishing up my opinions about Lyoko and what I dislike about the series, now it's time to release my inner fanboy out because holy shit, I fucking love Lyoko. One of my favorite moments is when Jeremy goes to the supercomputer and everyone goes to the scanner rooms. Jeremy transports them to Lyoko. I love the theme song in the background. I love how the music is playing. I love how the animation is. I just like how everything is just moving. It's one of my favorite iconic moments. I just love how Jeremy trances everyone. It's just so memorable, iconic, legendary. I fanboy all the time. It gets the inner child out of me. I just love this moment, and specifically the actual opening theme song. Dear God, this theme song is iconic. It's nostalgic, it's loved, it's well written, the beats, the background music, everything, how it looks, it's just iconic as hell. I fucking love the theme song. I try to remember it so much as a child, and I still love it today as an adult. The theme song is so beautiful. Everyone loves it if you grew up with Lyoko. Now, after watching this video, if you have not seen Lyoko, as you notice, it has both blended animation between 2D and 3D. When they would go to the Lyoko universe, everything would be 3D, and when they go back to their universe, it would be 2D. It's a very great thing to look back on this series, how they were able to find a way to blend both animation style in the right correct order and how to do it. The early stages of Lyoko's animation may have not held up, but when you get to like season 3 and season 4, the animation really gets better. And what I really love about this series is just how loving and supporting these characters care about each other. You see them struggle with parents, like Auric going to Yumi's house and helping her deal with her family's problems, trying to be there for her, trying to understand the situation better, or when Auric finds Odd paralyzed from a Xana attack and he blames himself. Seeing Alita go to the hospital and everyone are there for her. I love how they're just there for each other, constantly just being there for each other, that they truly care about each other like a family, and I love it. I think Lyoko did friendship much better than Shonen Battle anime. I really do believe Lyoko handled friendship formula much better than your average Shonen Battle series. That's just my personal opinion, but I love how they prove it with their actions than repetitive dialogue. I'm sorry, but I think Lyoko did it miles better. I love the sacrificing and the pushing towards the series. I love how characters are always in danger. I love how the characters are constantly struggling at home with their parents, their schooling, and trying to save the world, and no one knows about it. It's great character writing. I love how the characters keep getting pushed. No main character actually died in Lyoko, but the fact that the creators kept pushing the fact that they might die and consider the younger audience at the time, I have to give credit, man. They gave no fucks, and I love it. Side characters are wasted. The return to the past is a really cool concept. I like the idea to make sure everyone is going to know they're going to be okay. 24 hours going back to the past. They don't have to realize they're constantly going to be in danger by Xanon trying to take over the world. And it helps to make everyone feel calm again that they're not going to constantly be in danger. That's the point of going back in time. So no one remembers anything, but you're also taking away character development by side characters that desperately needed it. So as much as I disagree with a lot of elements of choices they did with Lyoko, I still love this series. Nonetheless, not to mention William. I like William, he had potential, but they made him a villain for a whole season without really giving him a great, proper character arc, and I have to disagree with that. Lyoko definitely had moments of a series, but I can't say everything was executed right. If the creators didn't write so much filler and actually didn't retcon character development with a return to the past and gave William a great, proper character arc and not just treat him like a background character, I would say Lyoko was definitely up there, but if I have to be completely honest, recommending Lyoko today with people who did not grow up with it, it's going to be a chore to get through. But those who did grow up with it, there's a lot of love and care out of this series, but there's a lot to disagree and not like about Lyoko. But at the end of the day, I fucking love this series, even with its flaws. I love the theme song. I love the characters. I love their support to each other. I love how realistic it is. Thank you for the creators for making this series happen. It's going into its 20th anniversary this year, and I just have to say thank you so much for the memories and the fan base for keeping this series alive on Twitter, especially everywhere else on social media. If you see a Lyoko post, it means the fan base are still alive out there. I have to thank you guys for still showing your support, and yeah, this is my love dedication video to Lyoko. I am Delix, subscribe if you want, and happy 20th anniversary, and stay Lyoko weird. Have a good night. Bye.